Phipps, who is the head of talent marketing and communications at Capital One. Katie, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Romy, for having me. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Tell us about you. What is your job today?
That's a great question. So a little bit about me. I live in Richmond, Virginia, with my husband and my almost 12-year-old golden retriever, Grace, who's my best bud. And I work at Capital One leading our talent marketing and communications team. So when we think about, what are we going after? What's our kind of North Star? It's really elevating Capital One to be a beacon brand for top talent. So what is that place that everyone wants to work because we provide those career opportunities and growth and opportunities to really grow your career? And we do that through a number of different vehicles. So we've got our career site, which includes our careers blog. So think long form content about what it's like to work at Capital One. And then all of our social handles, video content, and really great partnerships like the one that we have with Fairygodboss.
I think it must be so much fun to get to run the social handles. What is your favorite thing about your job?
Favorite thing about my job, hands down, the heart. So I'll tell you what I mean by that. So I have an incredible team, and they bring so much heart to everything that we do. So when we think about what gets us out of bed in the morning and normally into the office, but in our current environment, into your work from home office, which might be just, a couple steps away from where you are, it's really that ability to meaningfully change the potential career trajectory of someone's life, right? So we are helping people connect to that next opportunity. So really about marketing with heart and with authenticity. So we think about how do we use our associates as our storytellers, right? So no one can tell you what it's like to work at Capital One better than the people who do it day in and day out. So we really leverage our associates and help provide them with the avenues and the stories to share what they love, what's unique about working at Capital One. So there's so much heart. And then I think in the work that we do day in and day out, we get to meet a ton of associates and a ton of people who work at Capital One, and that brings a little bit of excitement and positivity to the work that we do.
What is your favorite thing about the company?
Yeah. So Romy, I'll give you two things. I don't follow the rules very well or streamline, so I'll give you two. One is, the people, right? And you could ask anyone at Capital One and they will probably tell you that answer. I remember when I first joined, it was so funny because people would always offer to help. And for someone who that isn't usually it's a matter of, okay, this is my job. This is my role. Kind of, don't play in my space. I got my thing going. People coming out of the woodwork to just ask, how can I help? What are you working on? How can I get involved? And what a breath of fresh air that was. And I'll tell you one other, just a short story. We were working not long ago with our campus programs, and there was 50 different interviews that we were doing with campus associates. And one of the questions was always what do you love most about Capital One? Every single answer was the people. And by about, as the person who had to review these 50 videos, by the time I got to about 48, I'm let me guess, it's the people, right? So consistent and consistently fabulous, but a joke in terms of, okay, guys, we got this one. It's definitely the people. So I would share that with you, as well as I think our commitment to talent development and internal mobility, right? So I have seen time and time again and have worked with people very closely who have taken on new roles, right? Who have taken on new opportunities, who are leading new teams, and get excited about that opportunity to really build a full career at Capital One, right? And I think the way that we're conditioned sometimes to believe okay, if I want a new opportunity, if I want to make a pivot, I've got to go somewhere else, or I've got to jump ship after a couple of years and try something new. And just the number of people that have had different roles across the company and have been identified as people we just want to invest in because they have the ability to be great leaders or to lead new and different teams and bring different thinking is really inspiring. And I see just an opportunity to build a really multifaceted career at Capital One. And the other thing I would share with you is we have a lot of boomerangs. So for people who might not be familiar with the term, people who have left Capital One for one reason or another, and then has decided to come back. And I feel like if there wasn't that opportunity for career growth and a really strong culture and kind of that pull, right? Like I'm missing something that Capital One offers. I don't think we would see that many boomerangs in our associate population.
No, for sure. What is the most exciting project you've worked on?
Exciting is interesting. So I think it go a number of different ways. I will tell you, we are about to relaunch our Capital One career site in the next year. So for anyone listening today, check back with us in a couple months for a completely new experience. So that's exciting in one way. But when you think about what we're super passionate about right now, it's really building a culture of belonging at Capital One. So, and that I think has opportunities for associates. So as an associate, how do we help facilitate a culture where people feel seen and heard and valued and respected, and making sure that they feel like they belong and they have that supportive community. So that also is core to our mission and our values. So such an important part of our associate experience, and it translates to our candidate experience as well. So how with that just first interaction point do we make sure that candidates feel valued and like they could see themselves at Capital One? So that comes to life for us. Again, I mentioned that associate storytelling. So using our associates as the voice, and really focus on making sure that we'll call it the bill of goods, right? Or the expectations that we're setting with candidates is something that we deliver on from an associate experience. I think in our world where things could go a little haywire or a little wonky is if we're out there telling candidates that it's one thing to work at Capital One like this, and then they show up and we don't deliver on that on day one or day 45 or year 45. So really making sure that we are delivering an authentic experience. And so as a team, we're working to ensure that our work is representative of the diverse associate population that we have, and that our candidates are really able to see themselves in the storytelling and the roles and the opportunities.
What is one of the most exciting things you're working on right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. When we think about the state of kind of where we are from a racial justice and social issues and the ways that those, what's happening in the world around us are changing and influencing the way that candidates and, consumers, so people who would use our credit cards or our products, where they want to invest and spend their money, right? There is a lot of focus right now on, does a company do good, right? Is a company invested in issues that are important to me as a candidate or a consumer, and how do they show up and have a voice? And some of the work that we're doing right now is around, meaningfully focusing on our associate makeup and representation, and how do we, attract more candidates from underrepresented groups. Right. So if you think about in technology, that could be Black and Latinx talent. It could also be women. Right. So how are we thinking about storytelling in a diverse and inclusive way, that where you can see Capital One as a place for people like me, whatever like me means, however you identify, and also understanding the intersectionality between how we identify. Right. So if I had to think about what I think woman first, marketer first, HR professional first, like there's a lot of different ways that we think about ourselves and how we show up. And I think this is a topic that we spend a lot of time thinking about, and we want to make sure that we get right and is authentic to who we are. And so we've had the opportunity recently to partner cross-functionally with members of our brand team. So think kind of enterprise brand, the team behind our consumer brand, and probably some of the Charles Barkley related commercials and some of the things that, Jennifer Gardner, things that you recognize and see from Capital One a lot. So partnering with those teams, as well as our community affairs and impact team. So we launched the Impact Initiative it'll be about a year ago in June, which was a significant commitment to supporting communities and underrepresented communities and the fight for racial justice. So bringing all of those groups together to figure out how we share a consistent story around who we are for candidates, for consumers, what we stand for, and also understanding more deeply, like, what is the risk of being silent? I think you're seeing like the risk paradigm shift a little bit where, you know, traditionally companies would say like, oh, okay, like, is there value in me having a voice on, like, even we're thinking about what's going on, you know, with areas like voter registration and suppression and, you know, just things that are happening at a macro level across society. And where do we want to have a voice in those conversations, and where is it important, and where do people expect us to stand up? So I think that is important work that I don't think will end anytime soon. Like, this is going to be a long journey, and a journey with a lot of minds and creative firepower and deep thinking involved, but one that I think will help people see who we are as an organization and a company and what we stand for and believe. And I think we've been historically more open inside of our walls to talk about that and to share those stories. And you know, everything from our stance on equal pay, right? We are a forward-leaning organization in the fight for equality and equal pay, and you might not know it, right? Because we're not as loud and proud externally. So how do we show? When do we tell? And how do we balance that? But that's where I'm spending a lot of time right now, and I'm really enjoying the work and the challenge.
You've talked quite a bit, Katie, about being an associate. And for those of us who are not close to it, can you tell us exactly about that role? What is that role?
Yeah, that's a great question, Romy. It's a more of a Capital One term. So where other people might use employees, we call Capital One, our employees are associates. So that's kind of our internal nomenclature, and that's also reflected in our job descriptions, right? So principal associate or senior associate. So potential candidates looking will also see that. That's a great call out. Thank you.
And so to that point, what do you think makes your culture, your company culture, unique?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of things that are unique about our culture. I'd say collaboration is a big one. The way that we work together in a collaborative way. But if I think back to kind of what is that North Star, like, we are super unified around the mission, which is to change banking for good, right? So that means putting our customers at the center of our decision-making process. So everything we do is with the customer in mind. So we think customer back is a way to think about that. And that extends from, you know, the products that we build and create to the new offerings that we create to support our customers. And we're passionate about doing the right thing. It's one of our core values, is do the right thing. And that extends from our associates to our customers to our communities. So that was front and center for us. I know recently with our response to the pandemic, everything was associates, customers, communities. How are we taking care of those three kind of key constituencies in everything we're doing? And it also permeated our response to the recent racial injustice movement, right? How are we supporting associates, customers, and communities? And it's really that North Star for how we go about our work. When it comes to how we work together and support one another, I'd say we're incredibly collaborative. I touched on that just a little bit, but some might joke that there's a lot of socialization. Capital One, you know, a lot of opinions, a lot of people leaning in. But I think that really trues back to our belief that great ideas can come from anywhere and anyone, right? At any level. So the more minds, the better. The more people kind of kicking the tires on an idea or an approach might uncover something that we didn't see originally, just being too close to it. So I think the more minds, the better in a collaborative approach, as long as we're continuing to move forward. But I think that's a little bit of a joke at Capital One about a lot of socialization to get some ideas across the board. But I think it's also one of our greatest attributes.
So it's a great role for someone who loves to work with people and great people to work with.
100%.
Great.
100%.
Tell us about your leadership. Who's your leadership, and what kind of direction do they provide?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me with our leadership is transparency. Unlike probably something that I've experienced at other places in my career, in that we have a lot of insight at a very broad level into business decisions, right? Our strategy, where the company is headed, and opportunity to understand how each of our roles helps deliver on that, right? So if I think about my role and the role of our team, finding great people is going to help enable the future of Capital One, right? So if we have a core business challenge and problem that we're helping solve for, and we understand how that, for example, ladders up to, hey, we need more technologists, right? We need more software engineers to help enable our tech journey and build our tech team. So what can we do to help support that? So I'd say transparency is huge. Also approachable and open. I mentioned earlier that we believe that great ideas, come from anyone at any level. And I think that extends to our leaders and their approach. They're open to new ideas, new ways of thinking, and collaborating to really solve those hard problems for our customers. In my experience, I found a pretty significant lack of hierarchy in terms of who can you meet with, who's invited to what meetings. And I've heard that time and time again from our campus associates, right? So we have a number of campus rotation programs, I think 14, if I remember correctly, but they're 2-year development programs. So think, our technology development program is for software engineers, and we have a product management development program or analysts. And those are recent college grads coming in and participating in a 2-year program. And the feedback that we always get is tied to, like, I can't believe the level of access I have as someone coming into the organization at a junior level, and the access that I have to leadership and thinking. So I love that element of our culture where it isn't oh, you're this level, like, are you invited to the conversation? It's no, more minds, better thinking, like, let's push the envelope.
That sounds wonderful. This has been a hard year for work-life balance. Let's talk a little bit about how you manage work-life balance and how does Capital One support it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have one specific example that I'm excited to share with you because it's a newish program. But I'll start with just from a personal perspective. I feel like I have a great level of autonomy, right? And feel really empowered to do great work and also live my life, right? So you might say that at Capital One, it's more of a focus on work-life integration versus the hard and fast kind of work-life balance that some people experience, or even how we've traditionally thought about it. Like for me, being present and focused and there for my team is incredibly important. So one of the ways that I can maintain that is making sure that I've got time blocked on my calendar. It might be a 5 o'clock yoga class or a tennis lesson. And I'm kind of fanatical about protecting that time too, because having that outlet allows me to be better and stronger, for my team when they need me. So I think we're very open to that as a culture. I think we have opened up doorways and pathways to a lot of programs to support, especially to think about women and the impact of the pandemic on having to really balance work life and personal, and taking on, additional opportunities and questioning whether long term will women be in the workforce at the same level? Will they come back at the same level? And how do they take a break and re-enter? So there's a lot of interesting questions as we think about what women are facing today. The example I wanted to share with you was a new program at Capital One, and we use the term program lightly, but it's called Invest in Yourself Day. So all of our different teams across the enterprise are doing this, and it's a Friday, once a month, no meetings scheduled, to use as you want to invest in yourself. And we use that term loosely, right? So it could be, if you're like me, it's catching up on the articles that I have open in 35 tabs across my, Google Chrome at any one time, and catching up on articles. It could be a learning and development opportunity that, it's been on the back burner. It could be, catching up on reading, or, even getting outside. Like, I know tons of people who are like, hey, I find creativity and passion and enthusiasm by being outdoors. It's like, that's how I'm going to spend my Invest in Yourself day. So I would say very few rules or guidelines or expectations how you use the time, other than investing in yourself. And the feedback that I've heard from not only my team, but colleagues across HR, is that it's such a welcome reset, just to be able to have that time, especially now when, you're really seeing work and life integrate in a way that sometimes there isn't that clear connection, right? You don't have that commute, right? To say, hey, if we're working from home, like normally I would use this 30 minutes to decompress on the way home. But now it's, okay, well, 5 o'clock turns into 5:30 or 6 o'clock. So how do you help, ensure that we aren't feeling that burnout? And I think this Invest in Yourself is a great day and a great program.
It sounds fantastic. What a good discipline to build.
100%.
Katie, what advice would you give to women who are thinking about working at Capital One?
Yeah, another great question, Romy. This is one where, because of the openness of Capital One and our culture, I would advise women who are interested in Capital One, there's no better way to understand what it's like, or what a specific role or job function could be like, better than talking to someone who lives it day in and day out, right? So I think you will find, and potential candidates would find, that reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, for example, who works at Capital One, and like building your network, like, you are more likely than not to get a response, right? It is just the way we are. We also joke about our meet and greet culture. So for new associates joining the organization, there you get a whole list of meet and greets, right? Here's the people who are in some capacity tied to your world or your job or your function. Like, just put 30 minutes on their calendar, understand what they do, ask them questions, tell them what you're doing. And I think every time you do one of those meet and greets, they have 3 other people that you should meet too, right? So you start to network and build those connections. And because that kind of openness at all levels to do the meet and greet permeates our culture in such an impactful way that like extends beyond our walls. So I know I have a lot of people reach out on LinkedIn, like, hey, just would love to like do a virtual coffee chat, right? And find out more about your job or your role or how you joined Capital One. So I would definitely encourage women who are interested in doing that to reach out to someone in Capital One at a similar job family and ask for that virtual meet and greet. I would tell you, like, our recruiters are also a great catalyst for that, who can point you in the direction. And then also when you have that opportunity to meet and greet, really using that opportunity to dial up communication and influence and teamwork and results focus, like some of those things that are core to the way we operate. And those are also very transferable skills, right? So you don't have to go deep into your product knowledge or what tech stack you use from a software engineering perspective, but really talk about how you solve problems and how you think. And I think that's most intriguing to people when they're doing those initial kind of get to know you sessions.
Fantastic. I love it. And I think I learned a lot today about Capital One that I didn't know. And my biggest takeaways were this culture of openness and transparency, this real investment in development of employees. And I think most of all, the purpose. What really came across to me about why you love your job is both you're helping your customers, and also you specifically in your job are helping people find their dream career. So it sounds like you really have found great purpose in your work.
Oh, thank you, Romy. You nailed it, 100%.